Hey everybody, Joe Wilson here with Social Coach. I am joined with me today with the ever lovely Corie Meredith at UMortgage, Director of Mortgage Marketing. Corie, thanks for joining me today. How are you doing today?
I am great, Joe. It's such an honor to be here with you today, and I'm super excited to get this convo started.
Yeah, well, we got this convo started because I saw that you got a promotion recently and to director of marketing, and you've done a million different things over your career there at UMortgage, at AIM, and other places too. So I'm excited to dive in with you, a fresh face in the mortgage industry and a dynamo of marketing expertise. We're just super pumped to get to learn from you today. So I want to start off just really briefly talking about UMortgage because this is a really fascinating company to me because in such a short period of time has gone from literally nothing to a giant powerhouse. And I'd love to kind of get your take first and foremost of what has led to that meteoric rise. Because no doubt at all in my mind is marketing is a big portion of that. So talk to us a little bit about how did UMortgage get started and why did it get so big so fast?
Yeah, that's a great question, and it's a question that we get often too. And for those of you that don't know, mortgage started just back in 2020. So kind of the rise of all things mortgage related. People, chaotic times. People were refi boom out the wazoo. Everyone had that opportunity to kind of get into the machine. But mortgage took a very different route. So we actually started by growing our team member base to create that really strong structure at the bottom. And financial literacy and education and training has always been super important to us. And that's still what our base is all about. But what one thing that we offer is a community, and we'll talk about community a lot throughout this entire podcast because it has a lot to deal with our value proposition and the way that we do market. And I'm sure you guys know Anthony Casa, obviously CEO of UMortgage, but he is a marketing genius. I will say he has a lot of ideas. He's an amazing visionary, and he's been a really a great coach to me, but also a mentor and someone that I really look up to. And I'm honored to work alongside him and to learn from him. But so what is UMortgage? UMortgage really is a platform, and we describe ourselves as a platform that offers and serves our loan originators. So we look at our loan originators as our customers, and that actually has a lot to deal with our marketing. So you would think that a marketing company, a mortgage brokerage, excuse me, would go out there and they would target consumers, and a lot of them do. A lot of them are consumer direct because that seems like the logical approach, right? Well, we don't do that. We go after our industry. We want to target people, and we want to make ourselves known within our industry because we feel like we can do that by better serving our customers. So it's almost like a trickle down effect. We can target and say this is the value proposition of UMortgage for the resources that we have, the platform that we offer, the support that's within that, the community that's acquired and built within that. And that in itself will then help more consumers. So at the end of the day, we kind of are consumer direct in a sense where we are serving more consumers, but it's the direct part that's not so direct. We really do have that trickle down effect because we want to support the loan originator who can then support their local community.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting, really interesting way of looking at things, and I think that's where a lot of mortgage companies get confused about their marketing efforts. Is who is my consumer? Who am I actually marketing to? And you mentioned, our consumer, our marketing efforts are geared at educating loan officers and this industry to come here, and then it goes a trickle down to the actual borrower, realtor, referral partner, whomever. So I want to dive in a little bit onto how you guys learn about your consumers because marketing 101 is all about understanding your consumers. So you actually don't come from, I mean, you have been in the mortgage market for a while, but it's not your first rodeo. But how do you, like, from the leader of this marketing team now, how do you work on truly understanding your consumers, meaning the loan officers, and how do you get that kind of feedback loop to understand how to better market them, because it's always a continual learning process, right?
Absolutely, it is. And that's a great question. And one that I think a lot of people try to answer themselves, which is honestly their first mistake. So, how do we get How do we get to know about what our customers want? It's very simple. We ask, we listen, and then we create. So you had mentioned it there, that feedback loop. One thing about UMortgage is that we are very transparent and we have many, many outlets for feedback. To give you a tactical example of this, the marketing team had created monthly marketing calendars, something that we kickstarted as soon as I joined UMortgage, because we were like, we have LOs coming on board. Like once they're on board, what value can we give them? So we started creating monthly marketing calendars, and this is made up of different social media prompts, suggested copy, automated email sends, you name it, it's in that marketing calendar. And it's a way to add them, to give them, value right off the bat of what they can start advertising to their audiences. But we were noticing kind of slower user adoption to it. People didn't know where to find different things. They weren't really posting the things that we were creating for them. And we were putting in a lot of energy, a lot of work, and, spending a lot of time coming up with these ideas. And we're like, why aren't they using them? This seems so easy. Like all you have to do is download and copy and paste. And what we were missing was the fact that we weren't talking to our customer. We were making up these ideas. Sure, they were good ideas because they were all based off of education and, understanding what credit score is and how to put down a down payment and what that looks like and savings and all that fun stuff. But we weren't in the weeds of it. And that's the key. Like we're not the front line. Like I don't talk to realtors every day. I don't talk to consumers every day, but I talk to loan originators every day. So I understand what they're seeing and what their needs are. And as soon as we started opening up that communication and that dialogue to better understand the needs of our consumer, AKA our loan originator, that user adoption picked up. And now it's a highly adopted campaign that we do month over month. And it's actually a lot easier selfishly for us to create because we know what our customer is looking for and we're able to create those resources for them. And as you said, like, one of the biggest things that we always mention is that value is always evolving. As soon as you give somebody something, that something becomes complacent. That something becomes an expectation. So you can attract them with a lot of different keywords. Like we have this, we have the best technology, we have the best marketing, we offer you resources, yada, yada. But as soon as they access it, it's like, okay, what's next? So you kind of are always on this slope of ups and downs and this happy scale of like, you got to reach the happiness, but then as soon as you do, you're down back to ground zero. So value is a cycle, and the only way that you can keep up with that cycle is to continue asking the questions of like, what are you seeing? How can I solve that pain point for you? And creating solutions based off of that cycle.
That's so awesome. I mean, there you you just dropped a lot of knowledge in there, and I want to dive into that because I think that the first thing you said is a lot of marketers, what they do is they just think they know, right? Or they make an educated guess, or they want to force their ideas or their opinions on their loan officers of what is best for them to market. But you're like, no, I don't know best. My LOs know best. So let me just ask them, and they'll tell me exactly what we need. Right.
Exactly.
And I think so many people really miss that. And it's the same, and it's true for pretty much anything in life. If you think about it, right? If you really want to improve something, you ask the users of that thing. It's the same thing for us with our product development. We've only developed, Social Coach, our product, based on consumer feedback. It's not based on what, I mean, we had an idea and we want to explore those ideas. You have to make educated guesses to ask the questions of your users. And in your case, of your loan officers, how are we going to help them better market? And then one thing I want to dive into though, what you said is, that you have that feedback loop. So maybe if you could just describe a little more for our listeners about how do you have that set up as a regular type thing? What are the tactical steps that you do to like get a broad spectrum of feedback? Because I think a lot of people end up doing in a marketing role, and similar to this, is they listen to the loudest voices and the top producers only, right? So how do you filter that feedback? Well, how do you get that feedback? How do you filter it? And then how do you keep it regular to always get more feedback coming in?
Yeah, that's actually a really good question. I'm going to use a couple different tactics I had learned just through different books, and none of them are groundbreaking, but they're things that you're like, they might be aha moments for a lot of people. So the first one is thinking upstream. And what do I mean by that? I mean by solving problems proactively. If you notice things are happening consistently, try to find that leverage points that you can pinpoint that leverage point and then say, okay, if I just tweak that, maybe that can fix that question from happening a million times. So example of that. People would always come to me, hey, I need, a personalized flyer. I need to personalize this. I need to personalize that. Leverage point, okay, I want to stop being blown up with questions all day long because I have a million other things going on. Of course, I'm going to answer your questions because you're my client. I want to help you. You're my team member. But what can I do to solve their problem before it becomes a problem? So that's really how we decided, okay, we need to do something about this. So what did we do? We have a community called Workplace. And for those of you that aren't familiar, Joe, if you're not familiar, Workplace is a group run by Facebook. So it's basically Facebook for businesses. So within that, you have different groups. Think of your Facebook groups. So we created a workplace group called our LO marketing community. And we said, okay, this is your avenue to pitch all of your creative ideas. We have a team of 9. That's a lot for a marketing team for in this space. But when you're trying to support 300 plus loan originators and growing at the rate that we are, that's not a lot of bodies for a lot of requests that come in. So our goal is to create scalable solutions for our LOs. So in that effort, we adopted Canva. What can we do through Canva? We can let people utilize free accounts by accessing our designs. So we create designs that are templated to UMortgage branding. They're finished designs. And if you want to personalize it, which we encourage them to do, and we also encourage them to carry their own branding through their Powered by UMortgage logo to their local communities where they have that reputation. Now they're able to access those designs. They're able to import their headshots, fill out their personal information, co-brand it with an agent, enter their personal information, swap out the UMortgage logo, throw in their personal logo. And it seems like they went above and beyond, which is another concept I'll introduce a little bit later, but that +1 element for their partners, when really all they did was take a headshot, put it in a photo frame that absorbs the photo immediately, click download, and then they're blown away forever. So we offer a lot of those resources. I would say 99% of the content we create is accessible through Canva, where people are able to edit it because they want to personalize it. That's really what extends that relationship. And it takes it from the attract phase to more of the engage phase. Like, let me get to know you. Let's cultivate this relationship and continue to build on it. So another question you asked in there was, how do we continue to get this feedback? Going back to that workplace group that we had set up, we open that up for everybody. Pitch your creative ideas. We want to hear ideas that other people will find useful as well. So what do we do with those ideas? We track all of them. So we track those ideas, and we've actually created I'll call them a moderator group, you can say, of loan officers who kind of have marketing backgrounds, but also just to give us the option to have our finger more on the pulse of what we're not seeing because we're not on the front lines. So we meet bi-weekly and we review every single idea that has been shared within the marketing community, and we put projects into production based off of engagement and based off the insights that our LOs give us in terms of like, this is actually really useful, or this is something that I could foresee being impactful to our audiences. So that constant loop of like, you ask, you receive, and we're creating those solutions that then go into the marketing calendar that I was referencing earlier. It just creates this kind of like flywheel effect of, demand, but also value, response, etc. And the biggest thing for us is as soon as we stop getting feedback is like, whoop, 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 major red flag. Like, we want to hear those voices all the time. And the only reason you're going to continue to hear those voices if you are receptive to that feedback and you do something with it. So that's our goal is to continue doing something with that feedback and providing those solutions.
You're the very first company I've ever heard that's used Facebook work groups for this very specific use case. And I think it's so awesome because I can only imagine how active that group is, with everyone's opinions and ideas. And I'm sure it's like a treasure trove of marketing genius just waiting to be like joined, utilized by your team to build some awesome stuff. But Canva, let's talk about this for a minute, because that is literally the best tool out there ever. And like the fact that it's free for most people to use, like for like all the purposes that they have, is just incredible. And it's so simple that I'm sure over half of your LOs are more than capable of taking and editing the tools that you provide, those templates you provide for them. So that's friggin' rad. But I want to dive into that just a little bit more, because one of the things that I think is really important that you guys have nailed very well is the fact of having a personal brand and the company brand, right? And allowing personal brands to almost supersede the company brand without feeling threatened by that or concerned about what that's going to be. So what's kind of UMortgage's take on that, the personal versus professional, personal brand versus the company brand? How do you guys think about that, and how do you support your LOs in that way?
Yeah, great question. So I would say that although UMortgage is a national mortgage company, we're not corporate. You know what I mean? Like we actually preach culture over corporate. And we want that community feel to be in everything because we believe truthfully that the local loan originator is best for the consumer because of
Right.
the access that they have. They understand the community better, they can relate better, they have, they know that Florida's in a flood zone. This is what you need to have, or they know, the specifics of that network that they need to like be part of and relate to. So we would never shy away from someone saying like, I want my own personal branding. Like, go for it. If that's what's getting you business, that's what's getting your name out there. You are an extension of UMortgage, absolutely. And we want you to carry that name proudly and to be, a champion of UMortgage. But at the end of the day, it's not about UMortgage. It's about your client. It's about giving the customer the best service possible while also, giving them the best deal at the end of the day. So that's really like our value add there of like stay present within your local community. You already have that reputation, you have friends, you have family, you have connections already. And we don't want to stripe you of that by any means. We just want to be able to support you so that you can continue to grow your business as the way you see fit.
That's awesome. Well, I think that your corporate branding is also applicable enough to most people's personal brands as well that it really meshes well with pretty much everyone's personal. And I've noticed that I've noticed in a lot of like some larger like mega sized mortgage companies, like people like to have their own personal brand. Like I'm the Joe Wilson team, and it's like tiny, 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 like at ABC Mortgage Company. But I've noticed with a lot of loan officers that are at UMortgage, these brokers, that they use that UMortgage brand very proudly and prominently. What do you think the reason is for that? I mean, that seems almost counterculture, but I mean, I love it. What do you think? What do you opine the reason for that is?
One word, the people. It's
Just
simply the people. It all comes back to the community that has been cultivated here,
Mhm.
truthfully. So, a way in which a lot of loan originators find out about UMortgage is from one another. It's peer-to-peer
Yep,
connections. It's
yep.
reaching out to some of our, I'll call them influencers for lack of a better way of describing them, to learn more about UMortgage. And the only way that they hear about UMortgage is because of the presence on social media. And although we have some other, avenues in which people find us, social media is probably 99.9% of the income that we foresee there. So we don't tell them to post all these things. We offer things for them to post, but they feel passionate about the cause because they're so bought in. They understand the community, they have access to one another. If they have a question, they get their question answered. If they want to be coached up on something, they have someone who answers immediately. Like our workplace community is what we currently have,
Yep.
but it's so much more than that because it cultivates these relationships amongst one another that you can get your questions answered. You can provide support for one another. You can go to events together. Like it completely cuts out the silos, but it also gives you access to, I'll call them experts because they are experts in
Mhm.
every regard throughout the entire country. So it's less of a like, you have to be sold on the idea and more of like the idea sells you because you're a part of that experience and you're experiencing what it means to be part of the culture. And
Right.
it's truly something I can't really identify or put words to because the value is just so impactful and something like I've never seen before anywhere else.
I think what you can say is it's your brand, right? I mean, your brand is not the U Mortgage name, not the cool logo that you guys have now. I love the name and the logo. I think that's really fantastic. But the brand is the culture that you have and what people say about you when you're not in the room, right? And I think that
Exactly.
shows through in spades on social with via your loan officers, and other marketing pieces you have, et cetera. So every company is a brand, whether you think so or not. It's like how well do you execute on those brand goals and your brand strategy that really, and
Yeah.
and when seeing it actually out in the wild is when you know that you have success. And I would
Thank
say
you.
you guys have totally nailed that.
Thank you. Thank you. I would also just add that one key element to our branding is our overall messaging. So
Mhm.
we have really kind of identified why people are interested in UMortgage, and we use that to just tell them about UMortgage. And I would say one key element of that is that we externalize pretty much everything we do internally. So our
Yes.
sales meeting, for example, you can watch it on our LinkedIn page. That's our company meeting. That's our company updates. And we just externalize it for everyone. We do like $100 million producer live stream every Friday with Todd Bitter and Andrew Cady. And it's just going over how they were able to produce that value. We create different partnership playbooks and we share resources on our social media account. Like, we don't want to gate anything because 9 times out of 10, truthfully, no one's going to actually use it anyway. Like, the value's there, but do they actually act upon it?
That's true.
That's debatable. That's debatable. But we also want to showcase that, like, this is what we offer. And if you want to be part of that offering, like, just join the community. So I would say the messaging is really, really, really powerful when it comes to our overall branding.
Yeah, and that transparency is what a lot of individual, I mean, that's what it is, right? I mean, that's what's attracting
100%.
people to come, is like, in so many other companies today that is non-existent. And so by being extra transparent, showing everybody literally everything, pulling the kimono back and just showing the whole thing, that's where the magic happens. And I think that's really brave of you guys to do, and it obviously is working out really well. I want to switch gears just a touch here and talk about, I mean, we've talked a lot about how you come up with the ideas and how you execute them, but how do you measure their success? Like, and maybe thinking about just any one particular marketing initiative, like, how did you take that, decide the idea, but also then measure if it was successful or not to want to do it again?
That's a great question. I mean, we love metrics here. So metrics are they measure health, right? So I was actually going to add in when you were mentioning like the workplace group and how you never seen like us having, that element. One of our metrics for marketing in terms of team health is active users of that group.
Mm,
So we will set a metric to how active that group is, because going back to that, like, if you stop getting feedback, then that's a troubling sign. So if we can measure how active that group is, then we can stay in front of any potential upstream thinking, any potential pain points that we would have in terms of like people dropping off from that. So I'll say metrics are really the end all be all for that. We track everything that we do, whether it's, different campaigns that we launch or user adoption of things. We're looking at everything, and we actually have it's called My UMortgage. We use Microsoft. I'll give you all the secrets. It's an intraweb created on SharePoint. It's, to mean anyone could do it.
yeah.
And we branded it as My UMortgage. So people can go there and access everything within the company. They can go there for org charts. They can go there for loan submission checklists. They can go there for playbooks. They can go there for marketing resources. And one thing that's super important to us, again, going back to the metrics, is that visibility and understanding what our user adoption is. And thankfully, we're able to track some of the metrics on there. So we launched that site. We migrated over. This is not the fun part of it. We went from Google to Microsoft over the holidays, but
Oh,
anyway,
that's a tough time to
yeah.
do anything, any project too. That's awesome.
It was fun. It was fun. So we stood that site up. We launched it in, I want to say, February, and looking back, or no, January 15th. I don't remember the date. Anyway, it was sometime this year. And from that, in our last 30 days, we had over 8,000 active users on that site. Average time on page was over 11 minutes. Like, if you go on any website in the world, given
Dang.
it's a little bit of a different experience, you're going to see like 2-minute average
Yep.
time bounce rate, or even like 30 seconds it can be up to. So yeah, it's just really impactful in telling that like what we're doing, people are finding value in, and the metrics don't lie when it comes back to that. So data validation is the answer there.
That's it's incredible, honestly. Like, it seems so normal and basic what you're talking about, but the amount of people that don't do what you're saying is equally as incredulous to me. So keep doing that, keep tracking. Do you have any people dedicated, like, who on your team? I mean, you said you got 9 people dedicated to marketing for UMortgage. Do you have a person that's specifically dedicated to tracking and analytics and data, or or is that you, or is that everybody? Like, who's in charge of that?
That's a great question too. No, we don't have a specific person dedicated to that, although that's the goal one day. But growth,
We'll
get
get
better
there.
every
We'll
day.
get there. Yeah.
Get better every day, we love to say. So no, we just have, our social coordinator is, responsible for tracking our social analytics. Our copywriter is responsible for tracking our email analytics. Our digital media producer, or excuse me, our digital marketing manager just got promoted to team leader once I got promoted. So he kind of is more along the lines of like some of our paid metrics, which is in the process of, possibly being delegated, but also our website analytics. So I'd say it's an overall team effort, but we review those metrics as a team weekly, to stay on top of those, to understand different flows, to look at the content and say, what can we do here? What features can we try? What are we noticing is successful? What are we noticing drop off of? So just keeping them top of mind week over week, although you don't see major spikes, because those themes can kind of happen at a longer cadence. It's better for easy adoption and easy fixes. So if you see things that are kind of plummeting, you're like, all right, take that out immediately. Or
Yeah.
if you see things that have kind of escalated, you're like, all right, let's try this again. And
Mm.
my biggest philosophy with marketing, which I actually think is kind of empowering, is that it's either a success or a learning. So never look at things as a failure. You're never really failing, because no one knows. That's kind of like the ambiguity of it, which to me is really fun, because it's ever changing and no one has the secret sauce of like what's going to work and what's not going to work every single time. It's super dependent upon your audience. It's super dependent upon your messaging and all these other relevant factors. Of course, there's best practices for everything, and you can read every book in the out there of like prime time is 5 to 8 or whatever it may be per channel. But it really comes back to how are you performing in that space,
Yeah.
and by keeping it top of mind so frequently, we're able to kind of have our finger on the pulse and adopt as we need to.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, share with us, like, what's the makeup of the team? Like, how, like, I mean, we mentioned 9 people, and you said there's digital marketing, website. What other, like, what's the structure? What are the specific roles that you guys have designed?
This is my favorite question, because I cannot tell you how much I love UMortgage, but my team is just like, oh, they have a heart. They call me mom. So that's the other thing. So I'll tell you the makeup of the team. Sam is our marketing team leader. So he's kind of responsible for facilitating, overseeing, making sure things are accomplished. Before that, he did lead our digital efforts in terms of paid advertising. We have 3 graphic designers. They are obviously responsible for creating all of our beautiful graphics that you see, elevating our branding. We do, different PowerPoint slides. They help with our, email, like visuals when we want to enhance our templates, things of that nature. We also have 2 digital media producers, Kaden, one that you met earlier, helping me set up this beautiful setup,
Looks
because
amazing, by the way. Yeah.
I didn't even know how to connect my AirPods to my computer. You would think that I'm not a millennial, but I am. It's fine. And they help us with all of our live streams. So think of the things that I'd mentioned earlier in terms of sales meeting or, live broadcasts that happen. They also are in the studio when we have some people visiting, and they'll get content capture and making sure that, things are being edited as needed. And then we have Erin, who is our social media coordinator. She runs our brand accounts, and she's learning more about paid advertising, which is really great. She's super new in her career. We got her right out of college, and let me tell you, that was a steal. Everybody on the team is incredible, but she's really incredible. And then Greg is our copywriter. So he does all of our email writing, and then some writing for our like different blogs and press releases and things that you say. So everyone's
Dang.
very busy, but we have a little machine going.
I can only imagine. I mean, marketing is always the most like busy team, I feel like, at any company. But it sounds like, I mean, for the size of the company that you have, it feels appropriately sized marketing team. You can
It's a
always
good
use
problem to have.
you can
Busy.
always use more, but I know companies that are larger than you guys that have smaller teams, and it's like it's not a focus of the organization. And I think that's one of the neat things about what you guys are doing is you've recognized that by having strong marketing, it helps that bottom line, right? By marketing more towards your loan officers or potential recruits for coming in, that is helping the overall business. And a lot of companies don't see that yet. And I hope
Yeah.
that they can.
That's a kudos to Anthony, actually. Like I had mentioned previously, like he is kind of a visionary when it comes to marketing. Well, when it comes to all things, but specifically marketing, and he sees a lot of value in that. So he's willing to invest in that. So I feel fortunate to work with somebody who does see that, because I know that there are a lot of CEOs and kind of a misconception out there that marketing is just like paint, like pictures and arts and crafts and that fun stuff, but it's so much more impactful than that. So I feel very, very thankful to be part of a team that is valued the way that we are.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And I think that, it has, especially over this past like 6 to 8 months when the market has really started to tank a little bit, that we've seen, personally have seen a lot of marketing roles get cut from these mortgage companies. I'm just thinking like that's the worst possible thing that you can do for your
Lean
organization is
in.
cut marketing. That should be the first thing that you actually hire, and the last thing to get fired, because without marketing, you got nothing, right? It's like Henry Ford is famous for saying, stopping advertising or, marketing in this sense is like trying to stop time by breaking your watch, right? It's like, it's not going to stop time. You just have to keep on going, right? So that's awesome. Now, last question, and I'll let you go. But you're relatively, I mean, you're relatively new to UMortgage and to mortgage marketing in general. What's some, or, and actually just like a career in life, right? Like you're a young gal, and I love that. Like but you're like, you've already accomplished more than most like 40-50 year olds have in their entire like careers, and I think it's amazing, and I want to get more young people into this industry. So what kind of advice do you have for people that are thinking mortgage sounds too boring, or like how can they get their career started in marketing, and is mortgage like a good avenue to be doing that?
Absolutely, it's a good avenue to be doing that. I think that's kind of just a misconception in general. Like when you talk to anybody, I'm sure you can attest to this too. It's like, how'd you end up here? And everyone's answer is like, I don't know. I just kind of did. And I followed the same suit. Just to give you guys like a very small snippet of my background, I actually went to school for mass communication, and my whole life I wanted to be a news reporter until I became one. And then I was like, oh, this is not for me. But I took a lot of those transferable skills, specifically the responsibilities that I had in that role, and I just applied them to every role that I had moving forward. And when I say like those responsibilities, I was in charge of everything when it came to, finding my story, going out there, recording it, editing it, writing it, putting it on the web, saying it on the news, putting it in social format, like literally everything. But that's what people should be doing. They should be wanting to get into the weeds, because that's where the flowers grow. You're able to kind of see those things. And I actually read a statistic the other day that was like 100% of frontline workers see the problems, but
Yeah.
as you go up the scale, and it's less and less visible to the higher ups. And that's a problem, because the higher ups are the ones who can make the changes, they can make the decisions, they can do the things. But if they're not seeing the problems, then you're not able to accomplish them. So my mentality has always been in, and this is kind of like UMortgage preaching as well, when we say like cut the middle management, bloated cost structure, all that fun stuff. We don't really have that, because it's so important for us to be on the front lines, to see what's happening in those communities. And that goes beyond the feedback loop. It just really is just like being present and being like, oh, I'm noticing trends here, or I'm seeing this here. And by us being able to be the end all be all of our role, Anthony has always instilled in leaders that you are the CEO of your role, of your department, of your team.
Yep.
So really taking that ownership and being able to run with it has been super empowering, but it's also been really eye-opening. So just kind of going to work every day and improving yourself. Like you don't come to work and just maintain static and say like, oh, I did that yesterday, I can kind of slack off today. Like, no, today's a new day, it's a new goal. Like it's your opportunity to get 1% better, to put in that +1. And really just kind of instilling that work ethic of like, you hate it when somebody cuts your hair 95%. Anthony just used this analogy today, actually. But like, don't put in 95%, because where's the other 5% going? Just show up, because people have an expectation of you. And I
Yeah.
also think that kind of goes back to that transparency element that you said. Like, we love to publicize what we're doing, because transparency creates accountability. Now, if we're saying
Right.
we're going to do it, we have to do it, because
Yeah.
who doesn't like having, their promises upheld? So it holds us accountable, but it helps us to get better and to continue to mature. So I think I totally derailed your question, but at the end of
No, it
the
was
day, like,
perfect.
the importance is just work hard and know that there's avenues out there for you to grow. I've never produced a loan in my life. I honestly probably never will. It's not about that. It's really just about the passion behind the mission. And if you see the vision and you can kind of get your arrows in a row and align with that vision, and ours is creating life-changing opportunities for home ownership, it's just impactful of what you can accomplish when you surround yourself with people who are all bought into that same vision and want to help in that certain way.
Dang, Corie, that was awesome. I like seriously appreciate you coming on the podcast today and sharing your wisdom and knowledge and transparency. Like this was a really fun conversation. Thank you so much. For anyone that's still watching, like because you know how this is. People, no one watches till the end, right? But
I know average watch times. Come on.
every watch times, maybe your parents and probably my parents as well will be wants to watch the whole thing. But if you're still on and you're interested in getting hold of Corie, how can someone get in touch with you?
Oh, you can add me on LinkedIn. Do that. Corie
There you go.
Meredith, add me on LinkedIn. You can send me a direct message. I'd love to connect on there. Always growing that community.
There you go. LinkedIn. All right, Corie. Well, thanks so much for your time, and best of luck with the future and everything at UMortgage. I'm sure you'll have major continued success there.